Just want to remind everybody that we have a stenographer, video and sound recording, as well as our secretary taking minutes, so anybody that does speak will have to speak very clearly. The purpose for tonight's meeting, it's a special meeting. We're going to vote on the CON process, or the CON for Niagara County proposed by Mercy EMS. The first thing I'm going to address is any potential conflict of interest. What we have been told is that the only potential conflict of interest that would need to be addressed is anybody that has a controlling financial interest, which we don't believe anybody here in the room has a controlling financial interest, but if you do feel that you may have a potential conflict of interest, please, prior to the voting, raise your hand and let us know your name, your agency or your affiliation, and what your potential conflict would be, and then it would be determined by the council if it is truly a conflict. Following this vote meeting, we'll close out this meeting, and there'll be a very brief second meeting for the council. But at this point in time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our C1 committee chair, Sean Downing.
All right, thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. The first thing I just want to read is basically what our mission statement is. It's basically in our bylaws is what the purpose of this council is. The purpose of the council is to improve the delivery of emergency medical service in accordance with the roles, responsibilities, powers, and privileges that are set forth in Section 303, Article 30 and 30A of the New York State Public Health Law. At this time, I would like to ask if there's anybody in the room that believes they need to abstain from voting. David? Okay, you need to express the reason why you would feel you need to abstain.
I understand the controlling financial interest, which I do not have.
Sir, I just need you to state your name.
Sorry.
David Greenwell, Greenwell.
Thank you.
Everybody in the room knows that I'm in a middle management position at AMR in Niagara County. I'm also a 34-year veteran of the volunteer fire service in Niagara County. And it's by virtue of that I hold my seat on this council. While I have personal feelings, both positive and negative, on both sides of this issue, the interests of my constituents in Niagara County, for lack of a better term, and my employer in direct conflict, so I feel I need to abstain from voting on this issue.
Okay, at this point we'll open it up to the council members for any discussion about what David had said.
If you truly don't believe that it's a conflict of interest because Dave does not have a controlling financial interest, Dave can either choose to not vote, or if he chooses to vote yes or no, that's still up to him. But his name will be called for the roll call vote.
Well, as rule of order, they said the state had said he has to explain the reason why, and the council makes the determination whether he can abstain or not abstain. So it's your decision as to whether he has the right to abstain. If he provided you with a valid reason that you believe he should abstain from voting. So it basically comes to the council. This is your time to ask them further questions or have a discussion on it.
Just need you to state your name, sir.
John Durand from Genesee County. Abstaining is actually a no vote, the way this thing is set up. So I think I understand his predicament. And I have a lot of sympathy for that, but whether under those rules could he abstain, I do not think so.
But John, you can't force me to vote.
I understand that.
Either way.
I understand that, but if you abstain, you voted no.
Right. Yeah. An abstention is the same as a no vote. I mean,
I understand.
you do have your right to explain your reason why, but you have to let us know why you believe it. And I believe the council will take the right action, so.
His name is still called.
His
correct
name,
to
his
vote.
name has to be called, so. Yes, sir.
Never.
You're good.
I'm Ed Major from the State Health
I-
Department. I just wanted to just.
I'm sorry, sir, your name?
Edward Major. I'm the Regional EMS Program Manager for the Western Region out of the Bureau of EMS. I just wanted to state, you had said his right to abstain. I think that the real issue is the council needs to determine whether or not there's a conflict, correct?
It's whether or not there is a conflict in.
Correct, so that determine, I mean, technically, an individual has a right to, if you say there's no contract, or no conflict, he could vote yes, no, or he could also abstain based on his basically, his role as a council member, so just,
I think what you're trying to
To
say
reframe that.
is that the council can force someone to abstain, but they can't force them to vote.
to determine if there's a conflict is what I'm saying.
Right.
That's the real, the council has the obligation to determine if Mr. Greenwell's position and point of view is or is not a conflict. That'd be what I would say.
And Dave has already stated that he has personal feelings, but he does not have a controlling financial interest.
Yeah, it's his choice. If they say it's not.
I guess I do have a couple questions. My name's Dan Hosey from Niagara County. My question is, where does it state that if somebody doesn't vote, that's cast as a no vote? And then my other question is, I understand about the financial gain, but also we're here to take a vote on the best interest for Niagara County. And if people sit on as in management roles, you know, are they actually looking at what's best for Niagara County, or are they looking what's best for their employment? Or are we putting them in a predicament? If I was the owner of AMR or Twin City and my manager voted against me, I'd probably have a new manager next year.
I understand it, and unfortunately, we all are, a lot of people are in that predicament that are in this room. That's why we want to make sure that everybody has a fair hearing.
But if they abstain to vote, we should.
An abstention is nothing more than this. If you look through the paperwork that we provided, I think it's at the last pages of the 0606 policy, they go on to state, if you have 30 members of your council, you have to have 16 yes votes. In essence, an abstention is the same as a no vote, because it's not a yes, it's not a no, really, but it's not a yes vote, so it doesn't count as your 16 votes yes. And if you don't have 16, then it wouldn't pass, so.
What are the wishes of the council?
There's no conflict, but move on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, ma'am, your name?
Lori Schwab.
So there is no conflict, but.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Richard Kozak, City of North Tonawanda Fire Department, I would like to abstain also. Speaking with the fire chief and our city attorney, we have a close working relationship with a carrier in our area, that we felt it would be better for us to abstain from the vote. It's up for you guys to decide that, obviously, but speaking with the fire chief and our city attorney, they thought it might be in our interest to just abstain from this vote also.
At this point, these are the only two numbers that,
I'd just like to make a disclosure. Andrew Knoll, Knoell. I wish to disclose that I am the general manager of Twin City Ambulance, one of the parties that raised an objection to this application. I receive a salary and benefits from Twin City, but have no other pecuniary interest in the company. Article 30 contemplates that representatives of commuting ambulance services will hold seats on regional councils and as a result cast votes on applications for operating authority. I do not believe there is a conflict of interest, and I do intend to cast a vote on the matter before the council tonight.
thank you.
I just got one more comment.
Just state your name again just for the record.
Dan Hosey from Niagara County. I believe we are here to approve the CON or not to approve the CON is in the best interest for Niagara County. What's not in the best, we should not be looking at it as we're gonna be making a decision what's best for AMR for Twin City, correct? Is that, that's what we're here for, right? I just want to
Correct.
clarify that. Okay. Thank you.
That was just an issue that we are required to discuss prior to the voting.
All right, thank you.
John?
Oh, yes, sir.
Al Chevery, Genesee County Health Department. Just a question. If Mr. Greenwell wasn't here tonight and he requested one of the alternates to take his spot, then this would be a non-issue, correct?
Correct.
So if Mr. Greenwell abstains, why can't one of the alternates for Niagara County EMS be called for his vote?
Because,
Because he's here to vote.
yeah, because he is president, he'd be the delegate, so
Okay.
I think you're right, but we'll get that from there. So,
How many people do we have that can vote?
well, that's.
I'm sorry,
that's-
sir, I just need you to state your name again.
John Durand, how many people do we have signed in that can vote?
Have that number for you momentarily, John.
There's 27 people eligible to vote. Is there anybody else that believes they have a conflict of interest and need to abstain from voting?
I just like when I'm not abstaining, I'm just pointing out a conflict.
Pointing out the conflict, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, at this point, it's up to the council to decide if they believe there's any conflict of interest. I mean, the correction would be correct. You do have the right to abstain, it's just if there is a conflict of interest. So,
Just one more. Edward Major from the New York State Bureau of EMS. Got a, in the packet, the 0606, it's one of the, it's page 20. But I just wanted to clarify, September 11th, 2001, there was a memo with clarity about abstaining. Paragraph number 2. Any member who abstains from casting a vote is counted as a voting member in attendance at the meeting to determine if a quorum is present. Therefore, if you have 16 members that were present at a meeting for a council of 30, and one member indicated that they would abstain from voting, they would still have a quorum. So even, he's still counted as present as basically.
right, it's still,
I just wanted, there was sort of a question at the end, I wanted to emphasize that, which I know you know that, but.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. So those are noted. It really boils down to whether it was a conflict of interest, so we don't believe there's a conflict. Your right to abstain would still be granted, but we're just trying to point out if there's any conflict of interest with anybody. And then we would turn to the second half of the same question: is there anybody in the room that believes somebody in this room has a conflict of interest that would be voting tonight? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Basically, we just want to reiterate the following, that the CON committee had followed the policy 0606 in conjunction with the Big Lakes CON policy. And it should be noted that any place there was a conflict or confusion between Big Lakes policy and 0606, we referred questions back to the state. Their comment was always refer back to 0606, and that's what we should govern by. In the public hearing, the hearing officer stated that everything she did was based on the policy 0606, and I would assume that everybody has reviewed the 3-hour video of the public hearing and has reviewed that information, I should say. The entire council was provided with a copy of this subsequent correspondence related to the application and opposition to the application and pre-hearing submissions. We've given you everything. The Con Committee was given every single piece of paper, documentation, either for or against, pre-submissions on the application and its process. All that's been forwarded to the state as well. And the final documentation and all correspondence regarding this process will be forwarded to the state on conclusion. The public hearing that was held on November 1st, there were at least 100 people in attendance with approximately 20 people that spoke. Some of them being from the EMS Council, Fire Advisory Board, the Niagara Chiefs Association, and numerous fire departments in favor of the application. Some of the notable speakers that were there were the Sheriff, the EMS Coordinator Jonathan Schultz, Supervisor Lee Wallace, Dr. Shepard, and the legislator Godfrey, who noted that the Niagara County legislature enacted a unanimous vote on a resolution declaring the existence of a public need. The public hearing officer stated that the legislature's resolution constitutes considerable evidence of need, in addition to which what was already established by the preponderance of the evidence presented. She went on to state that there was a strong presumption of validity of what the legislature voted on in the resolution, and enjoys a strong preponderance of constitutionality for what they have done. The opposition to the applications during the public hearing were AMR Twin City. Both representatives had filed pre-hearing submissions in the opposition for the application and its process. The public hearing officer noted that the two objections are competing ambulance services and found their objections were more of the nature of competitive advantage and it's not proper for consideration. Members of the Con Committee that were present were Andrew Knoll and myself. Throughout the entire process, we had the opportunity to ask anybody that was speaking at the public hearing to ask questions, of which neither of us had any questions. Also present at the public hearing were Chair Wade Schwab, Elaine Roman, John Duran, and David Greenwell. Don't believe I missed anybody else, but if I did, I apologize. And at this point, unless if you guys had any input regarding the public hearing you would like to offer. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. The public hearing officer submitted her findings of fact and recommendations, which was distributed to the group. Basically, in the conclusion of what was stated is to support the motion to approve the application of Mercy Flight Incorporated, doing business as Mercy EMS in all aspects. At this time, we would open the floor for discussion and questions if you have any.
John Schultz, Niagara County Fire Department, Director of Emergency Services. First, I want to thank all the members of the fire service that are here tonight, coming from Niagara County, in support of this vote going forward, and thank all those that attended the long meeting last November 1st. It was great to see and hear the community come together and speak about the need and the preponderance of the need in the county for EMS service countywide. I think through the entire evening it was shown the public need is there. It was shown to the numbers that were provided through various presentations that evening. that the public need was there and is there and continues to be there as early as this morning when we had an incident that took 4 fire departments to get an EMT together to get a patient to the hospital. The process that's been undertaken by Mercy is a long process. I thank them for that, to come to help us in Niagara County. I'm hoping we move forward with this tonight. I'm fairly confident we'll move forward with this tonight in the best interest of the Niagara County citizens, and thank you all.
Again, Dave Greenwell. I just have something I want to read into the record real quick and present a question based thereon. This is a letter received by AMR just last week from the City of Niagara Falls, and it's addressed to our Regional Director, Tom. It says, "Dear Mr. Maxey, I'm ready to follow up on the ongoing ambulance service discussions between the City of Niagara Falls and American Medical Response. Our plan is to partner with AMR and enter into a formal contract to continue our long-standing relationship. We know that in the time since AMR acquired Rural Metro, you've been working with the fire department to implement a number of changes to improve service in the City of Niagara Falls. In fact, Fire Chief Thomas Colangelo recently spoke to the City Council about the changes you have made to improve service in the city, and the Niagara Gazette quoted him as saying one of the reasons AMR pulled out of servicing Niagara County was to improve their service in the Falls. We look forward to moving ahead, and we will be in contact with you soon as we conclude our ongoing budgeting activities. Respectfully, Paul E. Deister, Mayor, City of Niagara Falls." And based on that letter, the question that AMR wanted me to present is that where is there a county-wide need when the City of Niagara Falls is already covered and looking to enter into a contract, and the City of North Tonawanda is already solidly covered. Just something for the council members to ponder.
Thank you, David.
I would also like to piggyback on that. Andrew Knoll. Basically, there are 3 towns that have no demonstrated public need, such as the City of North Tonawanda, the City of Lockport, or Adams Fire District. These towns have 100% reliability and coverage for their residents.
Dan O's in Niagara County. Did Niagara Falls send in a letter of support for Mercy?
Yes, they did, I believe so.
I'm sorry, sir, your name?
Oh, David McGovern, Niagara Falls Fire.
Thank you.
It should also be clarified too that the letter that Dave just read from the mayor was after the public hearing.
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was dated the 1st of November, was not received until the 9th.
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Mark Kasperzak, Fire Chief, Shawnee Fire Company, Town of Wheatfield. The comment was just made that the town of Wheatfield, or the town that Adams Fire District in, is solvent and is not of need. Take record at the public hearing, myself and the Chief of the Burkholz Fire Company from the town of Wheatfield, as well as the town of Wheatfield Town Board, are all on record of support for the CON, that there is a need in much of the town of Wheatfield.
Any other comments? Yes.
Just one last comment, John Schultz, Firefighter Director of Emergency Services in Niagara County. Just one last comment to talk about the county-wide need. 2004, Niagara County was faced with a dilemma when Oakland City Ambulance Company decided to pull back to their main areas within the county to provide service. 2016, Niagara County was faced with the same dilemma when Rural Metro, now AMR, decided to do the same thing, to pull back to the city of Niagara Falls. Therefore, that's why we need a full county-wide certificate of need, because we need to have someone that's willing to help us county-wide in the event things change.
Any other comments? Dan?
I'm sort of confused when, we keep going back and forth about boundaries in Niagara County and everything. We're trying to prove a need. So if the other companies that aren't serviced in that area, would they give up their CON and just like cover Niagara Falls then? How does that work?
I don't have an answer.
So I guess we're
For that.
probably looking at the same thing for another company. To cover the whole county where Twin City and AMR are able to cover the whole county, but they're not. So if we're looking for Mercy not to go for the whole county and break it down into districts, maybe the rest should turn in theirs, except for the districts that they're covering. Just, I won't ask any more questions.
Any other comments? Yes.
Joe Tackett, CMAC rep for Big Lakes. I'm just wondering whether the passage of the CON has any performance criteria within it to determine whether or not there's any improvement in the service over time.
I do not believe the state may be able to answer better, but that's not what's before us today. It's whether the application, where there is the need. I guess moving forward, that's for the state to decide further down the line if there's a further need beyond that.
Ed Major from the New York State Department of Health. Our CON process does not include performance measures. Those are more municipal driven or contract based driven or local home rule type situations are not included in the ability to operate. Thank you.
Dave Mangus, supervisor with AMR, former Niagara County supervisor, previously on this committee. Just curious, was there any plan?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was there any plan proposed by Mercy EMS to how they were going to cover Niagara County upon if they were to be awarded the CON? Or is it something that we're just here, we want to help? Because previously, when I was out here dealing with things, I know of the constraints and the difficulties of staffing paid ambulances in the county.
The application is basically whether there is the need. The application goes on further to state that they're going to provide the service. They would end up putting forth and implementing what that further need is and bringing in those additional resources. I think it would be the same for any agency, AMR, Twin City, any ambulance around the country would have to do the same thing. They'd have to base it on the call volume and continue to expand from there. I know they demonstrated at one point when, I know during the public hearing, the supervisor came in and said, we wanted one BLS rig. Well, Mercy came back and stated that they put additional rigs in an ALS fly car because they did not believe the call volume that they anticipated as far as the con for Niagara was asking for enough. So they brought in the additional resources to cover it, and that was based on what they projected and what they saw as the call volume from when they initially went in. So.
Okay, and before this meeting, was there anything proposed for the future at all? Or is that not a question for this?
No, that's
okay.
That's not.
That's all.
Any other comments or questions from the con committee?
Jeff Abbott, Ransomville, New York. To answer Mr. Greenwell's question, he asked where's the need? Everywhere but Niagara Falls or Tonawanda and Lockport. There's the need right there. That's it.
You have a question? No.
Are you recognizing
Yes.
numbers that are not?
No, it's supposed to be for the council members. I mean, the state is interjecting some points for clarification, but This is the opportunity for the council to ask their questions, provide their comments. It's not open to the public, which I had to briefly check, but it's open for council members. The public had their opportunity to speak at the public hearings. So I wanted to at least give him the opportunity because he started but didn't realize he was a past member of the committee. But we have to limit it to the council only.
Terrence Clark, Twin City Ambulance, I do believe we've recognized at least 2 people who are not voting members, and not state representatives as well. My understanding is Mr. Vargas is not a voting member, and I believe Mr. Casper's not. That's my understanding.
All right, close discussion.
No? Okay.
Which county is in question, sir?
Niagara. Mr. Kaprizak? Are you a voting member, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Is Mark Kasperzak a voting member?
No.
No, I'm not. But I don't believe that was clarified earlier, so.
I'm sorry.
Clarifying
Yeah.
the reason there.
Yeah,
Well, they
and,
corrected,
and I apologize, we do have to limit it to the members of the council so that this is their opportunity to ask the questions and provide their feedback. Everybody else should have looked at had the opportunity at the public hearing.
Andrew Knoll, I recommend that we remove Mr. Kasperzak and Mr. Vegas's comments from the record.
So no.
So noted. Any other comments from the council? Okay, hearing none. Moving on, the Con Committee met this evening prior to this meeting as a matter of formality to approve that the application be brought to the full council. Meeting minutes will be provided, they're just very brief, where Lori Schwab made the motion to approve the application to be presented to the full council, voted second by Andrew Knoll, and present at the Con Committee meeting tonight were myself, Sean Downing, Lori Schwab, Andrew Knoll, and Rick Brunier. The members of the Con Committee were the same members, myself, Sean Downing, Lori Schwab, Andrew Knoll, Rick Brunier, and Luca Quagliano. I'll always say. And sitting in for the chair, as far as the Big Lakes Council, filling in for Wade because of his position with Mercy. I felt that he should not be sitting as the Big Lakes representative, and he agreed that Cheryl Coffer would fill in for his position as chair for the Big Lakes, overseeing the process. At that time, we closed the meeting, and that's where we are at this point for the vote. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to bring the Mercy Flight Incorporated, doing business as Mercy EMS application to a vote before the council.
So moved, but I will add to that, starting with Niagara County.
I just need you to state your name again.
John Durand from Genesee County. That motion, but adding that we start with Niagara County.
What difference does it make? It'll start wherever the chair decides he's got it set up to start.
It's kind of a,
it's up to the chair for the roll call vote.
Okay, start.
So you,
We can start with Niagara County, that's fine. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
okay.
At this point in time, We'll start with a roll call vote. Starting with Niagara County. Make sure you clearly say yes or no, or in the case of an extension. Cheryl Confer.
Yes.
Richard Kozak.
Abstain.
Elaine Roman.
Yes.
Jonathan Schultz.
Yes.
Jonathan McKnight.
Yes.
David McGovern.
Yes.
Okay, due to some excused people, the alternates, Dave Greenwell.
Abstain.
Dan Jose.
Yes.
Luca Quiliano.
Yes.
Andrew Knoll.
No.
Moving on to Orleans County. Terry Bentley.
Yes.
Steve Cooley.
Yes.
Mike Fuller.
Yes.
Kristen McAdoo.
Yes.
Lori Schwab.
Yes.
Jason Spencer.
Yes.
Albert Chevry.
Yes.
Matt Jackson.
Yes.
Moving on to Genesee County. Rick Bernay.
Yes.
Sean Downing.
Yes.
John Duran.
Yes.
Wade Schwab, yes. Tom Douglas.
Yes.
Tim Yeager.
Yes.
Bob Youngfish.
Yes.
Chris Scapano.
Yes.
Is there anybody present that feels that I overlooked them?
Well, you said there was 27 votes, Lori Schwab.
Potential 27.
When you counted in the beginning,
with the
and we have
alternates.
26 entered. Just to point it out.
Because I think
There
I
was one-
counted Niagara County.
There one's absent, but we didn't count.
Let's see, I counted Jeff Abbott as a voting member, but he's an alternate, and they only had 2 that were allowed to vote for
Okay.
Niagara County.
So 26 votes.
26.
Okay, we have 26.
Okay, we'll be closing the voting and the secretary. The secretary will read off the totals.
Yes, 23, no, 1, abstain, 2. Total of 26.
The CON for Mercy EMS for Niagara County is approved by this council. Okay, do I have a motion to close this meeting?
Young question, I make the motion.
A second.
Second by Lori Schwab. This meeting is now closed. The council members, we're gonna have another quick meeting in about, we'll give you guys a 5-10 minute leg stretch break, and then another quick meeting. It shouldn't take more than 10-15 minutes.
10 minutes.